Attention all you rule breakers, you misfits and troublemakers, all you free spirits and pioneers, all you visionaries and nonconformists. Everything the establishment has told you is wrong with you is actually what's right with you. You see things others don't. You are hardwired to change the world.
You are listening to the Spiritual Activist Radio Show, and I am Rahasya Uncensored, where we look at the world not as it is, but as we know it can be, if and only if we have the courage to question the answers we've been given. This is our world, and it's time for us to take it back. Well, here we are again, all of you civil disobedient people and narcissists and internet crazy people. God, I'm going to start this out by just coming at you off the top of my head and letting you know a little bit about where I'm coming from, and then we're going to hit some really hot topics that we better start paying attention to. I mean, it's difficult for me to understand how somebody can't see the things that we might be talking about here. Doesn't matter. There's so many shows out there. The Dave Rubin show, he's really, really good. And Mello does a lot of research. Like him or don't like him, Alex Jones, he talks about things. I went back 10, 12 years, was listening to things he was talking about, and they basically are all coming true. So it makes me wonder, well, maybe I should listen to what he's talking about now. Tucker Carlson even brought that up. Maybe we should be listening a little closer to these conspiracy theorists, because there is a conspiracy, and it's a little bit of a theory, but it's more of a fact and an ongoing process at this point. And I've had to make a decision, and here's my decision. I think that my life has been, I haven't responded all that well to authority figures all my life, from my parents, teachers, preachers, and on up. But I'm seeing with age and growing that there is a need for some law enforcement. There's a need for some rules and critical thinking. I've been accused of being a racist, a white racist, obviously, because there is no such thing as a black racist or a yellow racist or a brown racist. It's only white. I've been accused of being racist for simply saying that even though I think that the law enforcement department should be really looked at and more transparent and better educated, I think we shouldn't be. I have to laugh a little bit at this. I feel like I'm talking to a bunch of 5-year-olds right now. I don't think we should be defunding law enforcement. And in some cases, they want to completely disband it. What do you think is going to happen if we do that? And who do you think wants to do that, except for the squad? I even forget their name, AOC, which is all out crazy to me, AOC. And the other woman, Elon something or other. I don't even want to remember these people's names. This isn't my life. I'd rather be talking about spirituality and meditation and rising our consciousness, maybe figuring out what are these things flying in our atmosphere that the government, after 70 years, is finally admitting that they don't know what the hell they are. These are the things I would rather be talking about, but here we are. We're stuck with talking about vaccinations and illegal elections and election fraud and all of the craziness of Black Lives Matter and Antifa, which is supposedly only a theory or an idea. But that idea is burning down cities and has been for about 14 months. And why aren't they being arrested? Why do we have almost 500 people that were at the Capitol on January 6th And some of them are just little old ladies carrying their little patent leather purses and a little American flag, walking through the ropes that they had lined out. And who you're going to have to do your own research, by the way. I'm not going to give you every single thing to look at. I'll give you some websites, but you need to do your own research, because if I say too much, this won't make it past the YouTube censors. Then I have to upload it to BitChute and get the audio off of that from my BBS radio show, which they're really great. They're just letting people talk the way we should be able to talk in a free society. But we have almost 500 people for 6 months in jail. Might as well be an internment camp. These are political prisoners, and the only person that was killed that day, regardless of what CNN tells you about 6 people dying, 4 people dying, there was only one person killed, and that was Babbitt. She was just a retired military person, came there to protest, and she was ushered into the place, and behind her are police. I mean, they're right there. There's guards right there behind her, letting her go through the window. And this moron on the other side shoots and kills her. That was the only murder that day. And that was a murder. That was an out and out assassination. Um, and I know Trump knows who that person is. So that person will eventually pay the price for that. They don't want to tell us about it. And here's another little clue for you. It's how you can tell who's telling the truth, more than likely. If you're at a lecture, for instance, a debate, and you have 2 or 3 people on one side and 2 or 3 people on the other side, call it the left and right, whatever. And one side is telling you one story of what is happening, what is going on, and why, and who, everything. And the other side is telling you the exact opposite. Matter of fact, they're accusing them of the very thing that they're saying that they're doing. And just for the fact that you already know who the 2 sides are tells me that this is a pretty educated audience here. How do you tell which side is telling the truth? It's so easy. You ask this side, hey, where is your evidence? And they say, it's right here. Here it is. And they just put it out in front of you. It's all over the place, verifiable, data points, everything. Whistleblowers, the whole shot. So you go to the other side and give them, a chance to respond. And they say, okay, you say this isn't true. Where's your evidence? Hello? Where is your evidence? And you get nothing. You don't get a denial. You don't get anything. They will not show their evidence. And you can apply this to everything from the election to critical race theory to the BLM. It doesn't matter. Whoever's not showing you the evidence is probably the person that's lying to you. And this gets weird too. I watch all the news shows: CNN, MSNBC, Fox, and Newsmax, and One American News. And I also watch, Shapiro and Dave Rubin and some of the alternative shows. Russell Brand, he has a way of putting things that adds a little bit of lightness to it. When I listen to everything, and especially when I listen to Psaki or Saki or however you pronounce her name, all she's doing is lying and lying and lying and lying. I have yet to hear her tell an unadulterated, pure truth. The only time truth mixes in with what she is saying, is when it slightly supports but doesn't negate the lie she's telling. I mean, lie after lie after lie. And here's the weird part. I used to have a friend, I think I've mentioned this before on a couple of other shows, but I used to have a friend. I wouldn't even let him on my property now, but we used to do business together, and you know, we were sort of friends, partners. And he stole from me time after time after time, and eventually I had enough, you know. And but he stole one thing from me. It was a nice carved chest that another friend of mine gave to me as a gift, and I wanted that back. So I asked him. I said, "Hey, did you steal my chest?" He goes, "No, I wouldn't. That was a gift." And he's so sincere, you know. Well, I went to all of his friends, three of them that were really not so much friends. I even went to his girlfriend. I said, "Did he steal my chest?" And they all said, "Oh yeah, he stole your chest. He's sitting in his trailer right now." Uh, it was clear that he stole it, and I knew he stole it, even if people didn't tell me. His close friends and girlfriend didn't tell me. So I go back to him, and his name was Chaz. You don't you wouldn't know him, so I can just say his name. He's a pretty much a nobody. I said, "Chaz, all of your friends, even your girlfriend, and I know that you stole the chest. Now you're telling me that you didn't. Okay, now it's one thing to just lie to me. A lot of people lie. And if you don't know they're lying, they get away with it for a while until they have to tell another lie to support it and another to support that. And on it goes till the whole thing collapses out of insanity. But here's the thing, Jess. I know you're lying. Now that's another level. You know, now it's going to be harder for you to get by with this. But here's where it gets weird. You know that I know that you're lying. Standing here right now, looking eye to eye, you know that you're lying. And you know that I know you're lying. I mean, how can this possibly be that you're continuing to lie? Well, this is what they do. They they know that we know that they're lying now, and they're still lying. And this to me is like some kind of insanity. I don't know exactly the psychological word for that, except maybe delusional. Um, it's really hard to say. We're in an area right now that's completely uncharted by rational, critical thinking minds. So on and on we go. I am really confused at this point because as I look out into the world, there's so many things that I'm not supposed to say now. I mean, isn't this communism that we're talking about, or extreme socialism, or fascism, or authoritarianism, or dictatorship? Um, a lot of us are waking up, though. I read one statistic where 70% of the CNN viewers have left CNN looking for the truth. Over 80%, approaching 90% of everything they've said for the past 14 months has either been a lie or an unsubstantiated conjecture that was later shown to be not true, or a fabrication, or just spun out of control truth to where it was unrecognizable. People are waking up. As I'm sitting here right now, um, I can honestly tell you, I didn't want to go to the Vietnam War because I was in college at the time. I had a wife and a kid too, but I seen that as a businessman's war, a war for the military industrial complex. It's so clear. Um, I've never been a nationalist. Um, wherever I am, wherever my heart is, that's sort of been my home. Um, lived in Mexico for a while, you know, and I respected the laws in Mexico, such as they were, you know. But wherever I'm at, that's where I feel I should be supportive, you know. Otherwise, I shouldn't be there. You know, like these people in Congress that are complaining about our rules and our laws and our the fabric of our society, and we're all racist, and terrible people and lying. And well, why don't we just pass a bill for $1 billion, buy them all a plane ticket, and tell them, go any country you want to go to. We'll pay your fare there. And see you later. Go down to the border. There's nobody swimming south across the border. They're all coming north. I don't know of any country where people are fighting to get into and risking their life to get there, other than some of the places in the Middle East where they're just trying to escape the insanity there. But things have changed with me. Um, things have changed. Now I feel like the country I was born in, the country that's allowed me to have a pretty good sense of freedom to do and say the things that I want to do and say up until now. Um, it's given me an education. I've enjoyed the prosperity of, having a house, having a car, using the roads, the infrastructure, and all that. But here lately, I've had a sense of responsibility. And why is it if I have a hesitation of saying, I think I am a nationalist at this point? And to be honest with you, if I lived in Brazil, because I loved it there and I loved the country and I loved the government and I love what they're doing, not that I wouldn't want to change some things, I would be a Brazilian nationalist. I think you should be proud to stand where you're standing and make that place a better place. I mean, this is such common sense. And again, man, I feel like I'm talking to a bunch of 5-year-olds sometimes because some of this stuff is just so obviously clear. Obviously. So obviously, there's so much in today's world to talk about. And I think the main message I would like to get across today is like Pierce Morgan, he said this too. I mean, there comes a time when you have to take a stand. Um, and I think if this was the hill I had to die for and die on for a cause, a reason, to be an American, with the true idealism of America, what the Constitution, the Bill of Rights really stands for, because that is a good idea. And we're given inalienable rights. In other words, rights that was given to us just for simply being born. Doesn't matter the color of our skin or what country we're in or come from or anything. We have inalienable rights. And this government, the Democratic run government right now, is taking away those rights. And they can't take those rights away. There's a higher power, a higher aspect to what's going on right now. And I think we really need to wake up and speak out while we can. I hesitate doing this. I have a lot to lose. I have a home, I have a business, barely. The Lotus Guide has had a tough year. I mean, last year was tough. Um, a lot of our advertisers are healthcare practitioners, and they're actually afraid right now that the government will be coming after them. And there's been a few, at least 5 in just Florida over the past 3 or 4 years, healthcare practitioners that have met untimely suspicious deaths and or just disappeared. These people are ruthless. And I think we really have to come to grips with the fact that we're up against, as Kennedy once said, a ruthless and monolithic conspiracy, a global conspiracy. I think it was about 2 weeks later, he was shot in the head in front of everybody, which is actually if you get into satanic rituals, that's part of it, is a public execution. Same thing with Princess Diana. She was, uh, I think she was murdered in a tunnel. That's part of a satanic ritual because you're supposed to be in a cave, but that's as close as they could get, I guess. And the more I look into all these conspiracies, I mean, look at 9/11. My God, people, wake up. If nothing turns your head, Building 7 should. That was a controlled demolition. They even Silverstein even said they were going to pull the building, but yet the news lies to us. Almost 90%. Really take that in. 90% of what CNN has been telling us for the past 14 months has been lies and fabrications. Come on. It's no wonder that 70% of the people are leaving there. I can't believe who the 30% is. That's they must just watch the news in between Netflix or something and ordering stuff off of Amazon. Um, yeah, I'm sitting here I'm just another guy out here in the world talking to my audience, which is pretty small, really, compared to some of these people. I don't promote myself. I don't uh, make my YouTubes. They don't make money. There's no commercials on them. I don't do anything except say what I have to say. And I know I have some long time followers. There's almost I think there is 5,000 followers on my YouTube channel now. And that's fine with me. I don't think I would want a big audience right now. I get enough weird emails. I get about 80, 90, 100 emails a day, all kinds of weird stuff on my comments, but I just let them go. If you want to say bad things about me, say bad things. I don't care. It's really none of my business what you think about me. That's a quote from Terry Cole Whittaker. She's a friend of ours. She just moved up to Washington. She wrote a book. It's none of my business what you think about me. And I have to remind myself that once in a while, it's really none of my business what you think about me. I'm just sitting here saying how I see the world. And how I see the world is pretty simple, actually. Um, I go by facts, critical thinking. Uh, I try to keep beliefs out of it. I talk to people all the time, not all the time. I stopped so much. I just get tired of trying to explain to people the basic facts. Excuse me. But I talk to people and they say, well, I don't believe this is true. Well, I had people tell me that over chemtrails when we had our front cover on the Lotus Guide was all about chemtrails and geoengineering. And I got so many emails of, I don't know, well meaning idiots, morons, telling me that they don't believe in chemtrails. And I had to explain to them it's not a religion. This look up. And I've actually met some of them on the street. I said, look up there. What do you think that is? They say, well, I think that's contrails, right? I said, no, it's not contrails. Go do your homework. Then come back and get in my face. They never come back. They never come back. So here we are today. And let's just touch on Black Lives Matter for just one moment. Let's just touch on it. Black Lives Matter said they gave us a scathing. You have to go to their website and see what they said. Basically, blaming all of the problems in Cuba on the United States for sanctions and everything else. The only sanctions that we've sanctioned them on are things that has to do with our own security and actually the security of Cubans. I mean, they were ripping people, the government was ripping off all the money that the Cubans here were sending back to their families. We did something to try to curtail that. It's the Cuban communist government that has been in control for what, 60, 70 years. Um, you can't own a business there. You can't hardly do anything. And it's over 50 cities now. Watch some of the YouTubes. They're all screaming out, Libertad, Libertad, and they're carrying American flags. They're doing the same thing in Hong Kong. They're doing the same thing in other parts of the world. I don't know how long it's going to last, but right now, America is the place where people look to. And they know, because they know if we go down, they all go down. It's over. The game is over. We're going to be looking at least 100 years because they will have too much control over everything, and it's going to be really tough, not only for us but our kids, our grandkids, and our great grandkids, and our great great grandkids. They're going to be living in some kind of dystopian nightmare. Yeah, I try to keep my podcast interesting and a little bit uplifting, a little bit of humor, but I tell you, it's not humorous anymore. When I look at Biden, he's losing his fucking mind. I mean, if you can't see that, you're losing your mind. He has got dementia, and it's getting worse and worse almost by the day. He has moments where he totally zones out, and then he thinks what to say. The other day, he said, "Excuse me, just a second. Sometimes I have to clear my throat because it's I think it's stress or something. Might be the fires again. We live in Northern California. We have smoke all over the place. I don't know how long I'm going to live here. I have my magazine is in Northern California. I would hate to just sell it for whatever I could get out of it because it's a good money making business. But I'm thinking about selling it and moving. I don't know where to though. I would have to wait and see what states are going to push back hard. Texas would be good, except it's on the border. New Mexico, maybe it's on the border. Uh, Florida, pretty good, uh, except I think DeSantos might end up being our vice president next year. South Dakota, it's really cold. Idaho, really cold. But there's a lot of states that are southern Colorado, maybe. But I'm thinking about looking around. But first thing I have to do is wait and see. If we get a new governor, um, then I would consider staying and playing this out a little bit more. The pushback's getting really strong, though. We shouldn't be afraid of saying, I'm an American. Yeah, I am a nationalist. I believe in the nation I live in without being called a white racist. Um, we shouldn't have to look at all the police departments, all the law enforcement systems, and say the whole thing is systemically racist. Of course, there's racist in the police department. I mean, it would tend to collect people that are looking for a little bit of authority uh, and a uniform, identity and all that. Uh, and right now, they don't pay enough, so it doesn't really attract the best quality people sometimes. But I have to tell you, of course, I'm a white guy. What do I know about racism in police departments? But the police officers I've talked to, even when I was in a contrary kind of situation, getting a ticket for speeding or whatever, I just sit there and say, yeah, yeah, I was going fast. I don't think I was going that fast, but they're all polite. Um, I've been with a black person when we got stopped, and it seemed like everything was fine. And that's not to say that it doesn't happen. But you can't just condemn all police officers that go out there and risk their lives doing things that you and I wouldn't do for any amount of money. I wouldn't want to rush into a building with a bunch of gangsters shooting guns and shotguns and high up on drugs and everything else. And we expect them to do that. And now we're trying to take away their rights to where now people can just sue them for false arrest or hassling them on a traffic stop. Or here's what I mean. It gets to the point where I really try not to be patronizing or talking down to an audience because I know most of you are on board with this, but some of you simply aren't. Um, the only people that would want to do this are criminals. Who else would not want a police department around? Criminals. The only other people would be some of the Democrats that are bowing down to the woke community. Here's a good bumper sticker for you. United we stand, divided we kneel. That says it all. You know, we need to stand up for our rights as human beings, natural human beings, born on this planet with inalienable rights to travel, to walk around, to congregate. And you watch, they're going to lock us down again. They're going to try. But I think enough people has had enough. I mean, enough is enough. And I think we've reached that point. There's so much over here to talk about that I don't even know where to start. How about South Africa? These people are going crazy. I mean, they're ripping up South Africa. Cuba, over 50 cities, they're revolting, and they're revolting in the face of 1 to 5 to even 10 years in prison in labor camps. You can't get people up here in the United States to go out to the streets and revolt for fear of the woke people coming up to them and some millennial girl with purple hair calling them a racist or a nationalist or any other name that they come up with that fits the ongoing rhetoric of the day. And critical race theory, look into this. Critical race theory, uh, we're telling young kids, black and white, you're either a suppressor or being suppressed. And America was built on racism and slavery. Is that true? No. A lot of America was built with slaves. I think the Chinese would have more to say about that than anybody, but yeah, a lot of the farming, the industry of the time was on the backs of slave labor. But aren't we over that? I mean, didn't we free the slaves? I think it was the Republicans that freed the slaves. We fought a war, a civil war, and apparently the Civil War wasn't near as bad as January 6th, according to Biden. Um, 9/11 wasn't near as bad as January 6th, according to Biden. I mean, how about all of you people out there that lost mothers and fathers and children and daughters and aunts and uncles in 9/11? Aren't you a little bit offended that Biden would say that January 6th is by far the worst thing that's happened in America? You know, and the reason they don't want to release over 1,000 hours of video is because we would see what started this whole thing. Uh, I suggest going to band.video and look up some of this stuff. You don't even have to listen to what they're saying. Just look at the video. I mean, the first people into the Capitol were all dressed in black. They were the ones outside with megaphones, stirring up the people, getting people all riled up. The only people that was there that was the MAGA people and the Trump people, they were trying to stop them at first. There's video of people with MAGA hats, trying to pull the people down to keep them from breaking in the windows. They were the first ones in the Capitol, the men in black. And now it's coming out that more than likely, it's hard to say, any of this is hard to prove, but it appears like some of them, if not all, were FBI agents. What are we up against, people? What are we up against? And should I be afraid to say things like this now? That they're going to come to my house and arrest me for sedition or being a domestic terrorist? Just for, this is free speech, folks. Like I say, if this is the hill I have to die on, I think this is the first time in my life I've seen that this is something to die for because um, I have kids, I have some grandkids, and if we get through this, I want to, in the future, if we have a future, for them to look at me and say, "Hey, Grandpa, hey, Dad, you know, you risked it all to say something, and you're still here, hopefully. And if I'm not here, at least they will know that I did something." Uh, that would be the worst thing for me, is to leave this world a worse place and not do anything about it. Don't say anything to anybody about anything and just let it unravel. I think we have a chance here, but if we don't take advantage of this small window that we have right now, we're all going to be in trouble. I mean, we need to start talking and looking into the election. I mean, okay, well, maybe it wasn't enough fraud or anything going on to change the election, but there's election fraud every single election. It goes back decades. This time there was a lot more than normal, I believe, but we should be allowed to look into it. Remember what I said, if they're not letting us see the evidence, those are the people that's lying, period. And if they want to disprove that to you and I, then show the evidence. But they don't. They've been wiping out the evidence, deleting it. Um, Look at Hillary. I mean, where's the evidence? It's over there in the corner with the hammer and all the pieces of her hard drive. How are these people doing this and getting away with it? If I would do that, I would be in prison for destroying evidence. Oh my God. Like I say, I'd much rather be talking about UFOs and off planet beings and the secret space program, all of which I think is going on. I mean, somebody's flying these unidentified aerial phenomenon crafts. They're not just flying themselves, they're obviously intelligently controlled. That means that there's someone flying them, and that someone has come here, probably from a long ways away, and that someone probably belongs to a civilization. That civilization has to have buildings and places where they make these crafts and a whole society of civilization. We haven't even got that far. We haven't even got to the point of, oh my God, you mean there's planets out there with whole civilizations of advanced beings? Um, I think some of them are so advanced. Someone asked me the other day, why don't they just, why doesn't a really supremely advanced conscious being just manifest and say, here I am? I think one of the things that would happen is we're running on such a low frequency that I think their frequency would be overbearing, like a ramped up frequency would drown out a radio show or anything. I think if we came face to face and started walking, getting close to a being like that, we would feel dizzy, lose our sense of identity, and probably be sucked into whoever or whatever they are, looking back at this empty shell of a human being over here. I think they're that strong. And that would explain why they don't want to come here just yet, because that would freak most people out. And that could be just one aspect of what would happen if you ran into a supremely advanced being with a super high consciousness running on a frequency way beyond anything that we can imagine. And the other thing is the Star Trek thing, not to interfere with a society or civilization prematurely. We know what happens when we do that. We did it in Africa. I mean, these tribal people, they had their little squabbles and wars, and it's true they weren't evolving and getting too far, but they were happy. The jungle was still intact. We go there, they all end up in brothels and on drugs, and now they have machine guns and heavy military artillery. They're It's so dangerous there in places that it's unbelievable. And while all of that's happening, we're wiping out the jungle digging up all of the resources. I mean, obviously something has to change. And this is where it gets difficult because there is a element of truth to everything that what I would see as my adversary is saying. For instance, depopulation. We don't like that word, do we? No, we don't like it at all. Why? Because we haven't been invited to the club that's thinking about doing this. But the truth is, there's too many people on the planet. I think if I was part of the elites, I'd be having a total different kind of conversation right now, but it would be more empathetic and compassionate and thinking of gentle ways to take the population down without just wiping out millions or billions of people, which I think that they're planning on doing. Why do I think that? That's what they're telling us. The Georgia Guidestones, it says clearly on there, a half a billion people. That's 500 million people. United Nations, Agenda 21s. They want a half a billion people on this planet by 2030. Hey, people, it's only a little over, what, 9 years away. And I think they're going to come close to it too. Is that good? I don't know. I don't stand on some moral high ground and claim that I know what should be. But I do know if there was less people in the world and the people that was less were the right people that's less and the good people were here, it would be a better world. I mean, think of everything. It doesn't matter. You and I, we could talk about pollution. We could talk about what's going on with the world and the wars. We could talk about politics. We could talk about the oceans and the rivers and the streams and the water and everything else, droughts. All of it would be better if, well, they want 14 out of 15 of us to disappear. That's a massive deduction of people on the planet, by the way. I mean, that's disappearing a lot of us. I mean, think of all the people that we're going to have in the United States that are undocumented, and we have no idea where they came from, what their intentions are, where they are, or what they're going to do. There's people coming across the border, and they're not all Mexicans and Nicaraguans and people from Central America. They're from 50 different countries. They're flying into Mexico, walking across the border. Um, and now we know. And by the way, I'm not telling you anything that I haven't really checked out and validated, but you go out and get your own research to, it's good for your mind to do that, not just listen to me. There, we're using our military now. There's whistleblowers in the military. Actually, they aren't even whistleblowers because they're giving their names. They're saying, no, we're using military aircraft to take illegal immigrants, accent on the word illegal, and flying them to different parts of the country, different states and communities. And we don't know where they're going from there. Um, I don't know. Isn't that called human trafficking? When you grab people and take them and drop them off somewhere and not let anybody know where they're at or what they're doing or what they're being used for? I think that is human trafficking, right? There's thousands and thousands of kids that, where did they come from? Where are their parents? What parent in Nicaragua would take their 5-year-old, their 8-year-old, or their 12-year-old and say, here, give them a compass. Here's north. Just keep on walking and good luck. If you make it, grow up and give us a call someday. No parent would do that. You know, these parents are disappearing along the way. The women are being raped, battered, and first thing you know, now there's little kids at the border. I've seen some of the little kids, they're dropping them over the wall. You know, You break their leg doing that. Another little kid is under the underpass, saying, "Where are you? Why did you go off and leave me?" He's all by himself. This is criminal, not to mention immoral. And I hesitate getting into the satanic uh, part of this, but let's face it, they're out there. Every year they meet at the Bohemian Grove and worship a big, huge owl, Baal, the god, and they do a sacrifice of caring where they kill a little baby doll. When they always said that they weren't doing that, but Alex Jones broke in and filmed it. Now that it came out that yeah, they're doing a sacrificial slaying of a baby. Now they had to admit to it, and their defense is well, it's not a real baby. Okay, do we really want politicians that goes through sacrificial satanic sacrificing of a non-real baby? And do we expect to think that they don't use real babies once in a while? Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Um, Sometime look up a guy named Bernard. He was a pretty high level banking person in Europe. And he feels terrible about some of the things he did. He said, I don't know, maybe I've lost my soul. But it got to the point where they had slowly acclimated and pulled him in. He said the line in the sand for me was when they asked me to come to America and sacrifice a baby and get the adrenochrome from the blood. He says, if I did that, I know I would burn in hell forever. And so he became a whistleblower, gave up everything. And I'm sure his life is in danger, but he was able to get the word out there quick enough because that's your only protection. Um, the things I'm saying right now, if if I would, by the way, I'm not suicidal. So if anything ever happens, it wasn't suicide. I enjoy life, and I'm enjoying the show. I mean, this is an amazing existence that we find ourselves in, and I'm really glad that I'm at this point in time because as a spiritual being, I want to do my part because I think this is another thing that's weird too. I've never been really a nationalist or a flag waving person. Slowly, it seems like I'm becoming that because it seems like uh, you have to take a stand at some point. Um, I've never been a religious person. I was kicked out of Sunday school twice when I was 6 and 7 years old for I was asking too many questions. One of the questions was we were studying Genesis in Sunday school. This is in West by God, Virginia, and the first part of Genesis, God was really happy with us. He says, "I'm happy with all this, everything's going on." I come back the next week and he tried to drown us all. And I asked, as a 6 year old, I had to ask a question. What just happened? Did I miss a Sunday or I don't understand. Why did he try to kill us all? That was enough to get me kicked out. And later on, as time went on, through another couple of years, they started teaching about Noah. And I mean, the thing that came to my mind, how big is this boat? I mean, it has to be a pretty big boat, right? I mean, these are questions that a 5, 6, 7 year old asked, and then we're lied to by our parents, teachers, preachers, and priests, and everything else. Don't even get me started on priests. Oh my gosh. Um, but here we are today, and I'm starting to see a deeper thing that's happening uh, religiously, and it has nothing to do with today's organized religions. That's it's been a farce since 325 AD at the Ecumenical Council, where basically the state made a deal with the religions at religion at the time, said, okay, I tell you what, we're not going to charge you any taxes, and you can put your stuff into trust, but what we want from you is to sanctify and make our wars holy wars, because we need people out there on the battlefield that are stupid enough to die for us, and they're not really dying right now. So we need to incorporate God into this equation of getting people out there on the battlefield that'll die. Things have never been the same since. But when you read some of the lost books of the Bible, um, and you read through some of the other writings at the time, and then you start going back to the Sumerian clay tablets, you realize that more than likely there really is a war going on between good and evil. And I see some of the things happening on this planet that are truly evil. I don't think a person in their right mind with any kind of even a bad moral code would be able to do, because it hurts you, or at least it hurts me, to see somebody suffer, an animal, a baby, a person, anybody suffering. uh, it hurts me in a deep, deep level. And I have to do something to relieve that suffering. And for sure, I couldn't cause it. I couldn't sit back and just cause suffering, but these people can. I think they're missing something. I think they're missing maybe their soul. I think there is a point maybe where that can be taken away from you. And like I say, if that's the hill I have to die on, I I think that's a hill worth dying on. And then you look at the vaccinations. I don't know if they're good or bad. All I know is they're lying to us, and they won't give us the real evidence. Um, all I know is most vaccinations have never really been all that great. You give young kids all those vaccinations, it really suppresses their immune system, and for the rest of their lives, they have a depleted, weak immune system. I hope this stays on YouTube long enough to grab the audio from it. But thank goodness for platforms like bbsradio.com. If it wasn't for some of these other platforms, BitChute and Gab, and we wouldn't have any way of talking. I've given up on Facebook. Uh, I've been censored on there way too many times, and they're just going to deplatform me. So I just gave up. I just post stupid things, you know. Um, I really appreciate all of you listening, by the way. This is good for me to be able to talk. And I'm hoping at some point we can start talking about meaningful things, and have the freedom to have debates. Like there was a philosopher, Hegel, and his big thing was two people that have opposing points of view. How you get to higher reasoning and higher understanding is get those two people together where they're communicating, and you start out by finding commonality, and you build on that. Then you filter out the the points of view that aren't substantial or based upon fact, and inevitably you will rise to a higher point of understanding that changes both of the points of view. I mean, this is what should be done. So I think we're getting to the close of the show, and I know I've just been sort of rambling on. I came down here to my center today to put this together, and I have a lot of things I could play and do, but you can only do so much in 55 minutes. And we just bought a puppy, and in the process of training it to be a little bit uh, easier to be around. He's a biter, and little by little, he's getting past that, teaching them to sit and roll over and all the other things. And I don't know, I'm just in love with this little guy. And it's given my wife and I a common focal point too that has nothing to do with this crazy world out here. I just wish all of you well. I don't mean to be singling out anybody, any individuals, although there's a lot of them I could single out. Um, I could do a whole show on Biden, but it's not funny anymore. He's sick. He's mentally ill, and I think we're sick for watching it and making fun about it, not really seeing the danger behind this. And go to Sky News out of Australia and all these other programs from other. The whole world is laughing at us right now, except they're stopping laughing too because it's no longer funny to have all this woke stuff going on. We have to fight back. Uh, I'm not a racist. I'm not antagonistic against any one person. You can live your life. You shut the bedroom door. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. I don't care. I have no care whatsoever in judging your sexual preferences. I just draw the line at where you're trying to create laws where I have to call him a her or her a him. Uh, I, and here's a weird thing. If I had a friend that a man that self-identified with being a female, and he says, "Hey, I prefer to be called a her," I might do it, because what I have a problem with is being legally bound to join in that delusion and lie with that person. That's dangerous. It's dangerous for little kids growing up too, to see parents just lying. Because a little kid, they're going to ask these questions too. Wait, isn't that a guy? He does have a penis, right? But he says he's a girl, so now he's a girl. I mean, if that doesn't confuse a kid, I was confused growing up, just watching cartoons and being normal, semi-normal anyway. Well, I think I'm going to call it a close. And once again, if you want to email me, it's Rahasya, RAHASYA at USA.com. You can visit my magazine at lotusguide.com. And if you feel inclined to make a donation, you can go to lotusguide.com/campfire. I still have some ways you can donate money on PayPal. And I have a GoFundMe site there too, but PayPal works pretty good. We don't get a lot of donations because I don't push it. If you watch my videos, you see that I very seldom even say this, and I know I should. I'm just not a really good self-promoter. I probably should get somebody to work with me. And I don't have a cameraman. I don't have a tech guy or anything. I don't have researchers. I'm just, like I say, I'm just some guy here in Northern California with a magazine that does a fair amount of reading and research. And I have a podcast and a YouTube channel. And I'm just doing my best to say it like it is. To all you crazy people out there looking for a little piece of sanity, I hope I'm giving you something to think about. So for now, thank you very much. And until next time, take care.